Okay, so where do I begin with this? I started playing World of Warcraft back towards the very beginning of the Burning Crusade expansion. I didn't start in vanilla, but I was just riding off the tail end of it. Like, BC had just gotten started, and a friend of mine from work was like, "Oh, hey, you should totally play this MMO. It's really cool. It's really awesome." And I'd only played Warcraft up until that point via, Warcraft 3, Warcraft 2, and the original Warcraft as RTS games. So I'm kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I'd never really played MMOs, so to speak, with the exception of, fucking Ragnarok Online, as weeby as that makes me sound. But it's like, I started playing, and, before long, I found myself enjoying it. I really liked the overall nature and the feel of it. The community seemed really nice. I started on a fucking PvP server, which was a big fucking mistake on my part. And I, shortly soon after moved to a role-playing server. I moved to Silver Hand. And it's like, I would make another server move before long when, around the time Wrath of the Lich King came out, I would jump to Wyrmrest Accord, but I found the game enjoyable. I found the community enjoyable. There was a bunch of role players, a bunch of us who would just kind of RP walk through Stormwind or wherever we happen to be and just kind of engage in the moment and be our characters. And, it was a fun time. It was enjoyable. But then around Cataclysm, things started slipping and going downhill, and towards the midsection tail end of Cataclysm, you had things like, welfare epics and stuff that became a constant point of contention. And after a while, the game just kind of went from, hey, learn your character, learn how to be skilled with your character, to, oh, hey, your character skill doesn't fucking matter, what's your gear score? What's your gear score? What's your gear look like? What's the number next to your gear? What is it? I don't know, after a while, I just kind of started to grow disenchanted with World of Warcraft, and, between Cataclysm to Mists of Pandaria, it was like, okay, cool, new region, everything doesn't look like crap, there's no underwater level, the Pandaren are an interesting group, I also enjoyed, the little subtle references, or not so subtle references, like Harvest Moon and whatnot. That was all fun and dandy. The storyline was pretty crap, though. Much like with Cataclysm, the story writing for Cata, for Mists, it was garbage. It was absolute trash. A lot of the characters who we've grown to understand and know suddenly take on this dubious, darker turn and edgy for the sake of being edgy. Jaina Proudmoore goes from being like, oh, we must try to live in peace, to, oh, fuck the Horde, I want to kill them all. Wow, look at me, I'm rude now. And it seemed like a real detraction from her character, because she's supposed to be this one voice speaking out against unspeakable odds, to be like, no, we must work together, because when we work together, we can achieve great things. Look at the end of the Third War. But it just, from Mists of Pandaria to Warlords of Draenor, just, fuck off. Warlords of Draenor was absolute trash. There was literally nothing redeeming about Warlords of Draenor, or I should say Garrisons of Draenor, because that's all you did. You would unlock a garrison, you would sit in your garrison, that's all you would fucking do. Maybe leave your garrison to proceed, picking up a few smattering of quests here and there just to level up a little bit. But aside from that, the sense of community, by the time Cataclysm rolled around, the sense of community was almost dead. Everybody was just, well, putting it mildly, leaving. I mean, to be honest, myself, around that time period, around Cata, around Mists, I was also playing, fucking City of Heroes. I was experimenting and, looking at other venues, other MMOs to play with friends. And to be honest, I made a few great friends through, City of Heroes and things like that, where RPG fucking gameplay was kind of it was there, but it was mostly roleplay that was the big catch to me, because I like, in an RPG, I like to pretend I am that character. It's, I want to be a part of that. I want to put my own foot in a story. I want to be like, hey, I was here. And then around the time that Warlords of Draenor had launched, like a week before Warlords launched, a friend of mine got me to try the demo for, like, the free trial for Final Fantasy XIV, which was still A Realm Reborn at that point, because the game that year had only just recently relaunched. So I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm fine, I'll do it. And so, I pick a server that they're on, and I pick my first character. I'm like, hey, it's a little guy. He's a cute little guy. I like the idea of little guys doing big things, so yeah, I'm gonna roll this Lalafell. Yeah, let's do that. My first class, because, hey, I'm like, hey, what classes are there? What does what? Because I didn't see any of the traditional classes, or at least as I was used to in fucking World of Warcraft. I didn't see Hunter. There was, like, Archer. I didn't see, fucking Mage. There was Thaumaturge. There was, there wasn't Priest. There was, fucking Conjurer. And I'm looking over all these, and he's like, well, if you're used to playing a casting, play a Thaumaturge. And so, I start out in Ul'dah, I start playing, and it doesn't take me long to kind of get enthralled by the game, because it looks beautiful, it plays great, although it might, at the time I had a bit of a potato of a computer, but it could still run it better than World of Warcraft, which was kind of embarrassing for Blizzard. And over the years, I would still bounce back and forth between, World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV, and I kind of balanced them both on a plate, and I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, I got fucking World of Warcraft, and I play on that. I got Final Fantasy XIV, I play on that. I got Heavensward, I got Legion, I got Battle for Azeroth, I got Stormblood, I got Shadowbringers, and it's like, I sit here, and as I play the two, I see occasional arguments erupt on Twitter of people sitting here going like, the pacing of Final Fantasy XIV is too slow for me. And I'm sitting here going, wait, aren't you the same motherfuckers who are all clamoring and clapping your hands like the one kid at the back of the bus every single time they saw a fire hydrant because of Classic? You guys are going like, oh my god, they're bringing back Classic, they're taking away all of the heirlooms and stuff to make things like they used to. And then you realize that Classic sucked? That the only reason why everybody loved Classic back then was because it was literally all you had? Expectations were incredibly low? Like, I remember watching Az from Heel vs. Babyface. I remember watching as he compared leveling from like 1 to 10 on one character played on retail, one character played on classic. And the character who's playing on classic, it's just a grind that lasts forever and ever and ever. And that's the thing that sucks, because even I tried to play classic. And you know what? My patience ran out after about fucking a day or two of just straight grind. Like, straight hitting that fucking grind. The leveling process in fucking classic is slow. Painfully slow. Like, I could probably watch the hair on my arms grow faster than I could level to 20 in that fucking game. And on top of all of that, people who are trying to say that, oh, the leveling process in Final Fantasy XIV is slow, and I'm like, bitch, how? How? It works pretty decently to me. I mean, hell, now any new character you create on a server tends to have that Road to 70 bonus, which bumps up how much experience you get, and even then, questing and leveling and grinding through fates, it's not that difficult. Bumping through levels, it's actually really quick. The writing is there, the writing is actually good compared to World of Warcraft, where most of the lore is located outside of the fucking game in books that you have to fucking buy. It's like, oh yeah, hey, here's this character who's just gonna randomly show up and do a thing in the game, and they're really, really important. Well, how are they important to this game? Oh, that's easy to explain. Just buy this book for $25. That'll explain everything. Okay, sure, why the fuck not? Pass. Meanwhile, in Final Fantasy XIV, it's like, oh, hey, here's this character. They're really fucking important. Really? Why are they important? Don't worry, we'll get to that. We'll explain how they're important in a little bit. We'll actually get these characters into depth and give you some understanding of where they come from, what they think, and how they feel about certain things, and how they would approach different things. So yeah, to me, writing is a big thing for an RPG, especially a fantasy RPG, because, storytelling is kind of important in that whole entire genre. Then you have people who are saying that, oh, the dungeons in World of Warcraft are so much better than the dungeons in Final Fantasy XIV, and again, I have to ask, how? How can you be so blatantly disingenuous and dishonest with yourself by saying this? As a person who's played since Burning Crusade, how can you be this fucking disingenuous about your fucking reasoning? What is your reasoning for saying that the only difference between, this is the normal version of a dungeon, this is the hard mode of a dungeon, the only thing that changes is the loot that drops and the difficulty of the enemies in the dungeon. All they do is they get a little bit more health, they hit a little bit harder, that's it. There's rarely ever, sometimes, oh look, there's a new boss, or sometimes they have a new attack. But aside from that, fuck all. Nothing changes. Nothing is different. You're basically just running the same dungeons over and over and over again. Whereas in Final Fantasy XIV, oh hey, here's a standard dungeon. Okay, cool. You beat that, a little bit later down the line, here's a hard mode of that same dungeon. Except, oh no, it's not the same dungeon. This entire dungeon, it's set in the same location, but they've changed the map so you can take different routes and discover new bosses and new territories. So it's not the same fucking dungeon, just a little bit harder. Now they may do that with the trials, like the big boss battles, and some of the raids are harder, but also, like World of Warcraft, they take a page from them and they go hey, here's an extra boss fight, or here's some extra mechanics you're gonna have to dodge. And speaking of dodging, can we talk about the fact that in World of Warcraft, the concept of mobility just pretty much doesn't fucking exist? Sure, maybe you have an occasional boss fight that'll apply a debuff or something like that, and you'll have to move out of puddles on the ground or something like that. But for the most part, you just sit in one static location and face roll across your keyboard until you win the thing. There is more mobility in a Final Fantasy boss fight, any Final Fantasy boss fight, than there are in World of Warcraft boss fights. And that's not me just shit-talking to shit-talk. That's me being dead fucking honest. I remember when the Shah of Anger was a new thing, back in Mists of Pandaria. It was a world boss, those things that Blizzard seems to have forgot exist, except for, oh hey look, we have these world bosses that are part of, oh wait, world quests, never fucking mind. I remember the Shah of Anger, it spawns and everybody's like, oh look, it's the Shah of Anger, let's just run up to it and beat the fuck out of it. We're not gonna move, we're just gonna beat the fuck out of it. No penalty, just run up and beat the fuck out of it. Ooh. So difficult, much challenge. Hell, the same thing happened with fucking the Timeless Isle with the big black dragon that shows up that you have to farm for a mount. Someone pulls it, everyone just clusters into one area, beats the crap out of it, no danger. Honestly, people complain about a lot of things involving Final Fantasy XIV. Namely, World of Warcraft fanboys complain about Final Fantasy XIV. They're upset because, oh, the people are saying Final Fantasy XIV is better than WoW. It's not true. Oh, my game is better. My brand. And you know what? It's fine. It's fine. You can love World of Warcraft. You can still love World of Warcraft. But there are those of us who've played since a long-ass time ago, and we've watched the game that we love slowly but surely lose its identity and basically get ground into a smooth pebble of it used to be a mountain, but it's been ground down into a pebble of what it used to be. And let's face solid facts here. It's bad news for an MMO when they're constantly trying to boast about their numbers, and then suddenly they go radio dark, and they refuse to talk about it. They decide it's no longer necessary for us to report our subscriber numbers. It's why is that? Could it possibly be because people have been hemorrhaging subscription numbers like somebody who's just been garroted hemorrhages blood? Is it the fact that World of Warcraft is more or less a dying franchise? Not quite dead yet. Like, Shadowlands may find a way to turn it around, but from everything I've seen, that's not gonna fucking happen. It does not look good for you. Like, I still got Shadowlands. I still got it because I want to, I'll give it a month. I'll play it when it comes out. I'll give it a month. And if in that 1 month you don't impress me, I'm sorry, but you're fucked. I mean, I'm sure people like, Heel versus Babyface and other such individuals who are more prominent in the, World of Warcraft community are gonna fucking rip you a new asshole when that expansion comes out if it sucks. I mean, everybody's safe for, like, I don't know, Asmongold, but then again, his tongue is so firmly pressed to the boot heel of Blizzard that you suspect someone superglued it there. All I'm saying is, I want World of Warcraft to be that game that I can look forward to logging into after work again. I want that. I really, really want that. And if it means they have to copy things from Final Fantasy XIV because 14 apparently has a winning formula, then for God's sake, do so. I mean, yeah, it's shameless to rip off somebody else, or to be quote-unquote inspired, but still, anything's better than letting your shit die. Especially this slow, painful death that you guys have been letting it do for so long. I want WoW to be good again. It's not that much to ask. I've rambled on for long enough, but yeah, I just had to get it out there. I had to air my grievances, so there we go.